Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and it is wonderful to see all of you here again. Hopefully you watched part one, because otherwise this part might not make as much sense. But in part one, I decided to break up the content into two different videos just because it was getting so long and there was so much information that I didn't want to overwhelm people. So this part we're going to be talking about lenses and tripods. And after I show you the intro, I'm going to go back to wearing what I wore yesterday. It's going to be a little darker since I'm filming at night at that point. And I apologize for the continuity break, but I think the content is still worthwhile. I still think it's interesting, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But regardless, here it is, lenses and tripods. Let's go. Let's get started. All right, so next up, we're going to be talking about lenses, and I'm going to focus a little bit more on landscape photography centric things because I think most cameras can take great landscape photos, but lenses matter a little bit more, especially when you're trying to get the most out of your money for a lens. So the first question I'm just going to address is, are kit lenses any good? And I think the answer should be apparent considering I just suggested 4 cameras that include kit lenses. And the answer is yes, I do think kit lenses are good, specifically when you're learning photography. Not only are they usually zoom lenses, they're just fantastic value. Some of the cameras I suggested, they're almost giving them away for free, or they're at heavily discounted rates. And that's great because that means you're getting a camera and a lens for a lot less than if you were to buy a body and a lens separately. The other thing, the biggest drawbacks of kit lenses are their image quality is definitely going to be lower than a more expensive lens, and that you're going to have a range of apertures rather than a set aperture on the lens. The good thing is the range of apertures doesn't actually really affect what you're doing in landscape photography, because that 3.5 to 5.6 range you're going to see on the majority of those lenses doesn't matter for landscape photography. You're going to be shooting at f8 or f11, and it doesn't really matter. In terms of the image quality, especially for a beginner, you're really not going to notice. It's something you might get into later down the road, and that's obviously why you would want to have an upgrade path for the camera that you're shooting on. But to start out, they're absolutely fantastic, and I can't recommend a kit lens enough. All right, so the next question is the age-old debate of primes versus zooms. And I'm going to admit to you that I am pretty biased when it comes to this topic because I shoot on zoom lenses. But let's say you're just starting out with photography. How do you know what focal length you want to shoot at? Maybe you want to shoot at 35. Maybe you want to shoot at 85. You really won't know until you get out there and start taking photos, and you'll start to notice, wow, I'm shooting more wide angle shots than I'm shooting zoomed in shots. And those are answers that you won't find unless you have a lens that at least gives you the options of slightly wider or more telephoto. And I think that's one reason getting a zoom lens is really important when you're starting out photography. You just don't know what you want to shoot yet, and you'll discover it as time goes on. Now, if you already shoot photography and you already know what focal lengths you like, I still recommend zoom lenses for landscape photography. One of the biggest benefits of prime lenses is their really large apertures, 1.2, 1.4. But again, we don't need that in landscape photography. We shoot at f8 and f11 or f16 far more often than we're ever going to shoot at f2.8, f1.4 or anything like that. So we don't even gain anything from those large apertures. And if you want to talk about image quality, I don't think that's really a debate anymore. I think the zoom lenses are perfectly capable, and you really have to pixel peep on very specific lenses to even notice a difference. Not to mention the fact that there's just so much versatility in just having something you can reframe a shot with. And again, I literally only take 2 lenses with me. This is my entire photography kit, is this camera and these 2 lenses and a tripod. I'm pretty bare bones when it comes to shooting landscapes, and that's because I shoot with 2 lenses that have 16 to 35 and 70 to 200. And that's enough for me. So I highly recommend zoom lenses, and I think specifically for landscape photography, they're unmatched. But again, that's my opinion. There's nothing wrong with primes. I just think that especially if you're starting out, especially if you're shooting specifically landscapes, zoom lenses are where it's at. All right, so since we mentioned focal lengths, let's tackle the next subject, which is, should you be getting a wide, standard, or telephoto lens as your first landscape photography lens? Most people are going to gravitate towards a wide angle lens because they immediately think, I'm shooting landscapes, I need to take pictures of all the stuff in front of me. But that might not be what you enjoy, and you might find yourself not wanting to shoot that, or not wanting to shoot, or you just don't know what you want to shoot, and you need a little bit of help in finding that. I think the best way to do that is to look at the people that inspire you. Maybe why you're getting into landscape photography, or you follow a few people here and there on social media, or you watch my channel, for example, and you like specific photos that those people take. Look at those specific photos. Are they wide angle shots? Are they more intimate telephoto shots? Or are they somewhere in between? And I think that should really help answer what you're going to want out of your photos with your first lens. Now, if that doesn't help your answer, I think the best thing you do is just get something that covers a long range, 24 to 105, 28 to 70. That way you can get an idea of what focal length you shoot at the most, and you just have a lot of options. I think that's the best thing you could do, and I hope that advice helps you when trying to decide on wide, telephoto, or standard. All right, so the last thing is not necessarily for people that are learning photography, but that might be interested in getting a new lens for landscape photography, and that is autofocus versus manual. Now, this isn't really a topic that you can discuss for pretty much any other genre of photography, but with landscape photography, we can get away with shooting in manual if you feel up to it. And the reason I bring this up is just because you can get a lot of bang for your buck with buying a manual lens. Now, none of the major manufacturers are going to have manual lenses. They're all going to be autofocus, but you can get off-brand lenses that are, well, they're primes, so they kind of go against what I was saying about primes versus zooms, but you can get some of these lenses for $100 to $200 that have pretty great image quality. That means you could buy 3 or 4 of these lenses at different focal lengths and then figure out what you want to shoot. And they all will produce pretty high image quality. Now, again, I'm not suggesting this for people that might be like, I don't want to try manual, but if you're up for it, I do think you should leave that open as an option. Definitely worth looking into, considering how much you get for your money. All right, so the last thing you're going to need is a tripod, and this section is going to be a little less complicated than the last two. It's just 2 basic questions. And that is, do you want twist lock legs or lever lock legs? Twist lock legs, like all the tripods that I shoot on, just means that I untwist this, can extend it out, and then twist it back to tighten it, and it won't come undone. The benefit of this is that there's no in-the-field maintenance. This can't come loose and I have to use a screwdriver or some kind of wrench to make sure that I have to tighten it up. Obviously, it can come loose if I don't tighten the actual locking mechanism, but in comparison to a lever lock leg, where it may come loose in the field and you have to tighten it up a bit, these don't do that. Now, the benefit of a lever lock leg is you know when it's locked. Unlike these, I can't actually tell. So right now, it looks exactly the same as normal and it's loose. And then I can tighten it up and I can't actually see that it's locked. Whereas a lever lock leg, you can visually see, okay, everything's locked down. And that's pretty much the differences between lever lock and twist lock. All right, so the only thing you're really gonna encounter when you're trying to decide on a tripod is, should you get a ball head, a grip head, or a 3-way head? I'm just gonna get out of the way now. Do not get a grip head. Those things are not reliable and I would not suggest them. All a ball head is what I use pretty much on all my tripods, is this little head here. It's just got 3 little knobs that control different things and the head moves around. The 3-way head does pretty much the same thing, except it has a handle that comes out and you get a little bit more control over how your camera is angled. Now, this one is slightly easier and more convenient to use, whereas the other one is slightly heavier and probably more precise. It's really going to come down to you and what you want. I would suggest just going into a store, if you can, trying them both out, seeing which one you like the most. Realistically, they're both reliable. You can't really go wrong, and it's going to come down to what you think works for you. All right, so regardless of what you pick for your tripod, my ultimate recommendation is just do not skimp on price. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've seen a $2,000 or $3,000 camera setup on a $20 plastic tripod because they just don't think it's that important. For not only peace of mind, but also just reliability into the future, which again has been the theme of this video, is just spend a little bit more. I'm not talking hundreds or thousands of dollars, just $100 to $200 on a tripod will get you something that's pretty decent. This tripod is only $350 with the head, and I've been using it for this one and another one for almost 10 years. Now, I'm not suggesting you buy this one. It has a little brother that's slightly smaller and takes slightly less weight, and it only costs like $150. I'll have that link down below. I'm only suggesting that one because this is a brand I know. However, I'll also link down 3 other suggestions that I have for tripods that will set you up for the future. Now, again, I just cannot recommend it enough. Do not skimp on this part because it is important. And the reality is, even if you decide not to shoot photography, your tripod, if you spend $150 on it, will probably be worth $75 if you have to sell it to somebody used, as long as you take good care of it. It's that simple. Do not skimp on the tripod. Seriously, get a good tripod. I promise you, you won't regret it. All right, so to wrap this up, I just have a little bonus, and that is if you're still budgeting things out and you still have a little bit left over, to get a circular polarizer. You don't need it right off the bat. You can learn and start landscape photography without it, but it should absolutely be the first thing you buy. And I actually wrote an article on how important it is and what it can do to your photography and what it can do out in the field that just isn't possible in editing or with anything else. And I think it's really important. And I just did a review on a magnetic system, and they make a circular polarizer, which you can also check out here. And I think that would be a great option. I'll have it linked down below. And again, don't need it right this second, but it should absolutely be what you purchase first for your journey into landscape photography. All right, so overall, I hope this guide helped you, whether you're new to photography or new to landscape photography. And if you have any more questions, or if you have comments or nice critique, no mean critiques down below, you can leave those in the comment section. And if you made it this far and you haven't liked the video, please like the video, it helps me out the most, and subscribe if you want to. I really appreciate all the support. And again, I hope that the next year we can get a little bit more freedom, start shooting more landscape photos, and you can start your journey. So thank you for watching, and I cannot thank you guys enough for your support. I'll see you again on the next one. Au revoir. Peace. Hasta. Okay, bye.